Welcome back to Black Star Dove. Welcome back to my channel. Today is a little bit of a different topic that came about for a multitude of reasons. The main reason is because of the Cash Me Outside girl, Bad Baby. I think that's her stage name. I don't really know her real name anymore. So the girl was like, "Cash Me Outside. How about that?" I think she was on Dr. Phil. So what happened is that she recently turned 18. Okay, which is like weird because like this girl's been underage for like ever. Like it was always I used to watch DJ Academic's videos, and he used to do videos on her. She's like, yeah, she's only 16. I'm like, she's been 16 for like 4 years, but apparently when she was on the show, she was like 12 or 13. So I was like, okay, then it makes sense, whatever. But she recently turned 18 years old, and when she turned 18, she started an OnlyFans, and she made $1 million. And then it got me thinking, and I was speaking with a friend of mine, Brittany, and she was like, they've been preying on her. They've been sitting and waiting for her to turn 18. So technically, it's not illegal what they did, but they sat and they waited for this woman. So that had me thinking because she was saying in the Black community, this happens a lot. So I just had to sit and think about, instances like these where it's like, it can be man or woman who take advantage of someone who's in a younger mind state. A good example would be R. Kelly and Aaliyah. It was heavily, said that R. Kelly married a 16-year-old Aaliyah, and things of that nature. I remember when Miley Cyrus was about to turn 18. They had a countdown clock. They literally had a countdown clock until she turned 18. That was crazy. Just going back and just thinking on it. Tyga. Remember Tyga? Put the lime in a coconut. Well done, Tyga. How him and Kylie Jenner, like for a whole year, he did what's known as red shirting, where he didn't mess with her, but he was like with her without being with her, and then when she turned 18, he became official with her. So it's like really, really, I don't want to say it's like it's accepted in the Black community so much, but it seems like it is, like these type of predatory behaviors. Like when I was speaking to her and I was speaking to some other women, they said that there are certain family members that they couldn't go with and be alone with because the family knew how that person was. But, no one really said anything about it. They just said, just don't go with him. Don't ever be alone with him. And I was just like, wow. And then I get to thinking about my family. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I know I have some family members like that where the girls couldn't be alone with a certain uncle or something like that. And it's just like, wow, like it all makes sense. And then you got to think about the laws and stuff. Like where I live at in Arizona, 18 is the age of consent. But where I come from in Ohio, it was 16 in a day. So technically, a man who's a grown man can mess with a 16-year-old, a 16 in a day. So that day is important. Year old, he can have sex with her, but he couldn't be in a relationship with her. If that makes sense. Like he could legally have sex, but he couldn't be in a relationship. I don't know, Ohio laws. But it just got me to thinking, like, why is this so accepted? Now, you can go with certain things like, different cultures allow different things. But since we're all have this American mindset, because we're American for the most part, we live by the standard traditional rules that are set upon us. So yes, you can go to certain countries and you can see a grown man with a 12-year-old. That's accepted there. It's not so much here. But why do we turn a blind eye to it? Like, why don't we tell that uncle or that auntie that she may need help, and the family like force them to get help and force them to seek treatment, force them to be like, hey, let's not do this. Instead of just, brushing it under the rug. um, I'm gonna share a very personal experience with me, of myself. Like, this isn't no hearsay, this is something that actually happened to me. Technically, I lost my virginity at the age of 6. So I'm gonna explain that. So when I was 6 years old, it was me and my cousin Michael. We used to have this babysitter. So I have to explain to you how it is. So in the Midwest, we used to have, imagine like an actual big house, but there would be 3 different families living in the house. Like, you have the first floor, which is the first family. Then you have the second floor with the balcony, that's the second family, and then the attic would be the third family. So not that I think about, not that I really think about it and think about, like, like the housing structure. That was actually a pretty big house, because like for us to live in the attic, it was 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, but it wasn't an attic per se, because like it looked really nice. I wish I could have pictures of it. Anyway, that's beside the point. So me and my mom used to stay on the top floor, which is the attic, and then the dude who owned the house, I never knew his real name, but we used to call him Candyman, because he would always have Jolly Ranchers. He would stay at the bottom of the floor, on the first floor, because he owned the whole house. And then of course there was a family in the middle. But so what pretty much ended up happening is that his daughter, whose name was Angel, and he had 2 daughters, Angel and Booby. Angel was, I want to say 14, 15, and Booby was 5. She's 1 year younger than me. Angel used to watch all 3 of us sometimes. And then what happened with Angel is that one day she just took us in the bedroom, and I think she started with my cousin first, because he was like older than me. So if I was 6, he had to be 9. And she started like having sex with him, and then she would start having sex with me and all that stuff. And it was just like, I mean, I look back at it now because I just think it's funny. But it was just, technically she preyed on us. But at the age of 14, in the neighborhood that we was living in, and how I seen things that happened to her, you gotta sit and think like maybe she wasn't in her right frame of mind to do these things. But so before I go off on a tangent, that's something I wanted to share. That's something that happened to me. I really like, I don't feel anything about it. Like sometimes I joke like, yeah, like, I've been having sex since I was 6 years old, but I don't feel like traumatized or anything by it. It's just there, It's not something that I, care for or anything like that. Just try to have a better understanding of things that happen. But with that being said, is like, how can we get to a point where, like I said, this is about, when people think of like a certain family member, it usually is a male, but there are women who do this as well. So how can we protect our young men and young women, like the kids, from these predators? And at the same time, if you still want to allow that person to be in a family, because that person is family, how to do about it in a respectful manner. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I hope I don't have to come across that. Technically, I did, no, on a personal level, but not just like, it's something. All right, so I'll give you another example. Okay, not my son, not my son, because if anything would happen to my son, people would have to see me. But my son's brother, something happened to him on his side of the family. So it's like his father's side of the family, which has nothing to do with my son. So it's like super weird, because they know it happened, but it's like they try to like ignore it and forget it. And I was like, man, that little boy is gonna be traumatized if he remembers this. Like, here, I know he remembers it, because his mom says that he sometimes talks about it. So like, I don't know. It's just, it's. I wish we could do better. I wish that, you know, as my friend was saying, that there were, you know, people that would come over, and depending on who was coming over, her mom would tell her to go put on some clothes, you know, or go to do this, or go desexitize. Or sexitize is not a word, but I'm gonna make it a word today. Desexitize yourself and to look like an actual child, not to look sexy because this adult is coming over, and it's just like sucks because it's like a double standard. Like, you know, like I said, imagine if I told you that story, but instead of me being a male, I was a young lady. Like, I think people would really have a problem with it. But since I'm a man, and it happened to me as a 6-year-old, they just like high five me, like, yeah, you've been doing this since you were 6. So that's one double standard that I really don't like, and I really think that we should all be, you know, checking those people and going about it in a respectful manner. Like even with my son, like, you know, I take my son to the park, and some girls be like, "Ooh, I can't wait for him to turn 18," and I'm just like, "You're like in your late 20s, early 30s, so you'll be like, you know, almost 50 by the time my son turns 18." It's just like super weird. Or I have friends, and they'll say with little girls, or they say with teenagers, like, "Oh man, I can't wait for her to turn 18." What? Even when she turns 18, she is still like young minded and all that stuff. Like, I never understood that. But it's just like, just seeing how she was able to make all that much money in such a little time. There were people literally waiting for her to turn 18 years old. So that way they can make their move now. So I don't know if there's, you know, like I said, legally there's nothing that they can really do about that. But that's like borderline predatorish to me, at least. So I would like to hear any of your thoughts. Other than that, take care. I love you. Thank you for watching. Peace.